Okay, let's get into audience questions. First one, very timely, very important. David, the federal eviction moratorium is ending soon. What is going to happen when all of these people get evicted in the next few months? Well, that's not going to happen, actually. I think it's important to let's contextualize it. Yes, I believe July 31st is actually the day that the federal eviction moratorium that's COVID related will come to an end. But there's a bunch of different reasons which explain why you are not going to see nearly even a majority of the people currently, in theory, at risk of getting evicted, get evicted. Dean Baker, the economist, talked to us about this last week. He said the number being bandied about is about 8 million people could get evicted, but that he believes in reality it will be more like 800,000. And as he said, it doesn't mean we don't care about the 800,000, but 800,000 evictions nationally is not necessarily going to be a major economic disaster. Doesn't mean we don't care about the people, doesn't mean we don't need to fix the situation. So there's a few different things that you have to remember. First of all, depending on what state or even city you live in, the fact that the federal moratorium guidance from the CDC ends on July 31st doesn't necessarily impact you, because there are states and in some cases even cities that are choosing different dates. So there are already some states with moratoria or moratoriums, colloquially, that are in place that will go longer. And two of the states, or some of the states with the largest populations, like California, Texas, and New York, have protections that go beyond July 31st already, both for residential as well as for business evictions. You've got other states like Illinois, Oregon, Hawaii, New Jersey, Washington, New Mexico. They have their own guidelines in place that go longer than July 31st. Texas has local eviction moratorium that has been extended to, I believe it's October 1st or maybe October 31st. So there's the idea that on a single day, all these people are going to get evicted. The reality is many states have already extended that. The other reality, and this doesn't help people, it's just from an economic shock perspective, it's important. It takes a long time to evict people, and it takes a different amount of time in different municipalities. It can take months and months to evict people. I know various lawyers that work on evictions, both with tenants and with landlords. Often it's the same lawyers that work with both, not in the same case, but work with both. They say, depending on the state, it could take 3 to even 6 months, depending on if it's a place where it gets cold in the winter. There are even bigger restrictions in place all the time. So there's not going to be a single day of evictions. Now, one additional factor here, California and New York have announced programs where they are going to pay past due rent for a lot of people who are at risk of getting evicted. So in those places, when the moratoriums finally do end, there aren't going to be mass evictions because the states have put in place these programs. So for me, the bigger question is the following. So many people live paycheck to paycheck. You miss one paycheck, you miss a payment for your rent, you can essentially never catch up. There's an emergency. You've got a health insurance plan with a $2,000 deductible, and something happens where you've got to pay the $2,000 all at once. And so you miss a rent payment. You essentially can never catch up. And that is a bigger reality, that whatever you feel about paying past due rent, like California, for example, put in place doing, even if you feel that that's the right thing to do or whatever, even getting a lot of people out of the current situation. Imagine someone who's behind on rent because of the pandemic, lost their job. Now they're kind of keeping up, but they're not able to catch up. They're going to end up, statistically anyway, some percentage of them are going to end up back in that situation anyway, because so many people are living paycheck to paycheck. That's not going to change even with rent forgiveness. The last thought on this, there are people who say that because real estate prices have become so overblown in many parts of the country, that an eviction and even a foreclosure crisis would be a really good thing. It would pull down prices. And that is not necessarily wrong in some states, but there's a question as to whether we should hope for the misery and stress and anxiety of being evicted as a path towards a modest reduction in housing prices, which may or may not even be permanent. So that's kind of a bigger discussion, but that's the bottom line on evictions. They're not going to happen all at once. Not that many are actually going to take place, and you've got to really pay attention to what's happening in your state and in your municipality in particular. One of our sponsors is SteadyMD Primary Care, the easier and more affordable way to do primary care, and they're giving you 50% off because you are in my audience. You just answer a few questions. SteadyMD will match you with a licensed primary care physician that's tailored to your needs. You'll have a 1-hour virtual appointment and start a meaningful relationship with your new doctor. And from then on, your doctor will be available to you by text, phone, and video chat. It's not some random doctor on call. Your SteadyMD doctor has a limited number of patients. You get the attention you deserve, and they can help you with anything your primary care doc normally would. It's very cool how it works. You don't need insurance. It's just $99 a month. No other fees or copays for visits. Take the free quiz and see which doctor is a perfect fit for you. You'll get 50% off your first month when you go to steadymd.com/Pacman. No risk, no long-term commitment. The link is right underneath the video.